This quite possibly is the craziest Slappy book that I have read thus far in Goosebumps. And honestly, it might be one of my new favorites. So without further ado, my name is the Horrorlander to all the people and patrons of the night who are tuning in. I'm your number one favorite horror hero. I cover all forms of horror media, whether it be movies, TV shows, books, comics, you name it. And today I'm going to be venturing back into the origins of my YouTube channel for a kids' horror series that all of you pretty much know and recognize, and I am a big fan of, which is Goosebumps. And today I'm going to be venturing into Goosebumps Series 2000, arguably the most highest praised and most loved Goosebumps series within the franchise. And from what I've read so far, I can agree with that sentiment. And this book, Slappy's Nightmare, is arguably one of the most iconic books from that series. So what I'm going to do is cover a little bit of the plot, and then I'll go deeper into my thoughts about the book. So Slappy's Nightmare is a divisive book because the ending effectively is controversial. It does some retconning and some stuff that either can make it or break it as to whether you love the book. Some people are more forgiving for what the rest of the book holds, and other people focus on the objectiveness of that ending. So, nonetheless, this book opens up with Jimmy O. James. He's about to go perform with Slappy in front of this audience of kids in this theater, and he's very nervous. And if you've been keeping up with all the Night of Living Dummy books, you know why he's nervous. Because we know Slappy's nature. We know Slappy is an evil living puppet. He oftentimes insults people, hurts them. He'll do crazy stuff that could basically ruin Jimmy O. James' career. And we get that sensation as he's about to go on stage. And he's very nervous. And he even threatens Slappy, which is pretty new. He openly threatens him up front, saying, "Do not mess up anything involving tonight, because if you do, this is the last time you and I are ever going to be together, and I'm going to get rid of you permanently." And of course, Slappy's taunting him, he's mocking him, he doesn't take it seriously. He's like, "Yeah, whatever, man. You can do whatever you want, but you need me. I'm your talent. I'm the main reason people tune in." And when he brings Slappy up on the stage to basically perform, Slappy does his typical stuff. He starts going off the rails. He starts insulting. At first, the kids are laughing, but the jokes become very mean-spirited. Slappy's doing his typical performance thing. And then a kid ends up getting invited on stage. And of course, Jimmy O. James is openly threatening Slappy. And Slappy's sort of playing it off like he's telling him, like, "Slappy, stop doing it. You know what's going to happen." And then Slappy plays off that. And this kid gets invited up to go meet Slappy. And when he does, Slappy basically insults him and then bites down and clamps onto his ear and holds on. And he holds on so tight that as Jimmy O. James is telling Slappy to let go and trying to grab him, the kid is running back. And then Slappy gets tugged out of Jimmy O. James' hand, is still clamped on and biting hard to his ear. The kid is screaming. The kid is wailing. He's yelling. All the kids in the crowd start panicking. Guardians and parents start running towards the stage and trying to get Slappy off. And eventually Slappy does get off. And then you cut to Jimmy O. James basically yeeting Slappy into the dressing room. He just takes him and slams him against the wall. Slappy gets flung back, and then he grabs him by the head and slams him against the mirror. Bro is whooping that ass. He's messing up my boy Slappy. Slappy is getting knocked the hell up right now. And he tells Slappy, he said, "I've warned you. I told you not to mess up this performance. I told you got to keep it together." And Slappy obviously did not listen. And Slappy's mocking him, saying, "What are you supposed to do without me? I'm the main reason people tune in. You could hate me all you want, but no one's going to watch you if there's no me, because you got no talent. You have no ventriloquism talent. They all think it's part of the show." And then Jimmy O. James opens up this crate and then reveals an identical dummy to Slappy, which you find out that the evil sorcerer who made Slappy out of the wood of a stolen coffin obviously imbued evil within Slappy, used his magic to bring him to life. But this dummy, that's an identical, basically twin to Slappy, is called Wally. And Wally might have been a prototype. It's hinted that Slappy was the final product, the one that the evil sorcerer, which we know as the fans as Kondu. Kondu was able to bring Slappy to life. This might have been a prototype for the evil toy maker. And there's these yellow old papers inside of there, these manuscripts that have the instructions about how to bring this dummy to life, some of the different curses and magic you can use. And there's an important one that is also how to put Slappy to permanent rest, to basically shut off his lights. And Jimmy O. James start threatening Slappy with that. He tells him, he's like, with these manuscripts, I can put you to sleep permanently. And I warned you, so I'm finally going to do it. I'm going to put you to sleep, and I'm going to bring Wally to life, and he's going to be my new dummy that I use. And Slappy cannot take it. He goes ballistic. He crashes out. He grabs Wally, slams him against the wall, and then tears his head off. And then he goes up and leaps onto Jimmy O. James, grabs him by the throat, and starts strangling him, and threatens, like, I'm going to rip your head off. I'm going to kill you before you even have the chance to put me to sleep. And then the plans are foiled because this young girl walks in named Georgia. And her sister Stella is there. Her sister Stella is very mean. Georgia's a lot more nice. And you find out that Georgia came in because she had to miss the show due to something with her mom and her sister. So she got offered to go backstage, so she ends up going backstage. Slappy immediately sees somebody walking, and he goes limp to the floor, trying to do the typical Toy Story gig that we all knew. Well, I should say Slappy gig, because Slappy was doing this before Toy Story. So he does the typical going limp shit, playing possum. And, Jimmy O. James is talking to Georgia. He sees how mean Stella is. Even Slappy is so pissed at how nasty Stella is with her sister that he even makes some remarks. And Georgia, of course, thinks that Jimmy O. James is this great ventriloquist. He's able to throw his voice so well. And, he tells Georgia and Stella to basically wait outside for a couple of minutes. And then he continues to do what he's going to do. Jimmy O. James picks up Slappy, slams him against the wall, and says, all right, I'm going to put you to sleep. You hold still. He puts the head back on Wally, and he starts reading out the manuscript that has the, Night of the Living Dummy spell in it, Karumari, that stuff. And Wally slowly starts to come alive. He starts to, blink his eyes and slowly come into effect. And as Jimmy O. James is reading out the spell, Slappy, on the other hand, is becoming weak. He's becoming very weak, and he feels his life flashing before him, and you start to see Slappy finally become vulnerable. He was very scared and nervous, and you saw him get very vulnerable when Jimmy O. James revealed he has the spell that can put him to sleep. He became wide-eyed, and he became nervous, and that's why he crashed out, because he's like, yo, screw that shit. I'm not going to get put to sleep. I'm going to go crazy right now and try to kill him before they get me. But now it's too late. He's reading out the spell, and Slappy puts his wooden hand up, and he's huffing and puffing. He's like, Wally, or not Wally, Jimmy O. James. You know what I mean? He says, Jimmy O. James, Jimmy, please, don't do it. Don't put the spell on me. Just give me a second chance. Let me come up with something. Give me a chance. And then Jimmy O. James is like, I told you. You tried to rip my head off. You tried to kill me. I told you to fix up your behavior. Otherwise, I was going to put you to sleep. And Slappy's like, I know, just don't do it. Please, don't do it to me. And Jimmy O. James finally comes around, and he gets a light bulb. He gets an idea. And he's like, all right, I put a curse on you. I read this spell that was within the manuscript. This spell basically is going to force you to commit 3 good deeds within 1 week. You have to go against your nature as to being an evil living dummy. You have to do 3 good deeds within a week. And if you do it, I'm going to not put you to sleep. But otherwise, if you don't do it, you're going to automatically get the spell put on you, and you're going to you're going to get flatlined. You're going to get killed. Slappy's going to get put to death. And Slappy's like, no, don't. I can't do that. That's going against my nature. It's a nightmare. I won't do it. And then Jimmy O. James is like, if you don't do it, you're going to get buried down 6 feet under. I'm going to put you in the trash heap. And Slappy's like, okay, I'll do it. I'll do it. I'll do it anything. Don't read the spell. I'll do it. Fine. And he agrees. And Jimmy O. James decides, all right, the way that we're going to handle this is I'm going to give you to Georgia. And he invites in Georgia and says, hey, Georgia, I'm going to give you Slappy. I'm going to let you practice with him. I'm going to let you use him for ventriloquism. You can take Slappy off of my old hands because I got a new puppet that I want to use now. So Georgia's very excited. Stella's making fun of her sister and being very hostile. But eventually Slappy goes home with Georgia, Stella, and her family. And Slappy has to find out a way to do three good deeds with his family, except as he's in this house, he starts realizing how dysfunctional the family is, how many problems there is going on, and even though that might seem like a good opportunity for him to make amends, as he keeps trying to do good things, somebody is foiling his plans. When Georgia's room is very messy and the mom gets angry at her and Stella always arguing, she says, "Okay, Georgia, you have to clean up this room by tomorrow. Otherwise, you're going to be grounded. I'm not going to let you go to that one best friend's birthday party." And Georgia tries cleaning up. She thinks it's so unfair that her life is, basically being put into this place. And she tries cleaning up, but she gets so bored and uninterested that, she kind of goes to bed. And Slappy realizes, like, all right, this is my moment. I'm going to clean up her room. I'm going to do all these great things. And you get some good moments where Slappy very much is disgusted by all the good things he's doing. He's like, yo, this is against my nature. Why am I even doing this? I'm Slappy, the evil sorcerer. And he ends up cleaning up the room. And then when he falls asleep, he ends up getting woken up to screaming by Georgia. She's freaking out. And then obviously she goes into Stella's room and starts berating her and arguing with her. And Slappy's like, yo, what the hell is going on? And when he, slowly starts to get up and look around, he goes wide-eyed because he sees that Georgia's room is even worse than it was before. The drapes are torn up, the magazines and stuff are ripped up, there's paint everywhere. It's just a giant pigsty mess. And he's like, bro, I cleaned this. I cleaned this just a couple hours ago. I made it pristine. Why is it so nasty now? And then he realizes, oh shit, Stella probably did it. Her, nasty sister who's so rude against her. And he realizes, okay, my first deed that I tried to do good got completely retconned by Stella. I gotta find a way to get rid of her. And obviously, if he tries doing that, he gets into some complications. Obviously, the mom is around, George is around, so he doesn't get the opportunity to do the stuff he wants to do, whether it be good or whether it be trying to stop Stella from interfering with his plans. Then they go and try to entertain for this girl who's in a wheelchair who they know. And she's very easy to laugh, so Georgia puts on a show. Meanwhile, Stella's in the grass just sort of looking down and trying to be on her best behavior. And Slappy's being on his best behavior. He's not acting out. He's doing exactly what Georgia wants him to. And then when Georgia has to go inside to take a phone call, she hears screaming and she sees that the girl is sent flying down the hill. Maggie in the wheelchair is rolling down the hill. Somebody pushed her wheelchair down the hill and she's going towards an incoming car. And there's going to be a collision. And there's a near miss. Maggie luckily gets away as the car swerves, but she hits the curb and she falls over onto the pavement, slams down on her arm, and it cracks. So she ends up getting a broken arm on top of her hip fracture that made her in the wheelchair. And Georgia goes over there, protesting. The mom is very angry and freaked out. And Stella, gets confronted by Georgia. She's like, why the hell would you push her? What are you doing? Why did you push her? Why did you hurt her? And Stella's like, I never do that. I would never hurt Maggie. What are you talking about? And then Georgia's like, okay, so who did it then? If you're not the one who's responsible, because you were the only one there. And Stella claims that it was Slappy. She claims that Slappy went up, pushed the wheelchair, and then fell down and played limp. And Slappy's like, this lying bitch, I didn't do that. I'm on my best behavior. I'm trying to do some good deeds. I'm trying to get off my parole. I'm trying to get off my probation. I'm trying to get off this jail that is trying to be a good person. I want to get it done as fast as possible. You're clearly the one who did it. Why are you lying? I was on my back. And Georgia right away is thinking that Stella's going crazy. Obviously, she did not have this living dummy come to life and push it. She's probably the one who did it, and the mother gets very frustrated by Stella's behavior. She thinks she's acting out and going crazy. She might get sent away to a therapist or worse. So there's a lot of family dysfunction going on, and most importantly, Slappy's good deeds are all getting retconned. So he has to find a way to solve this. He has to find a way to get his good deeds done, and if that requires ruining Stella, he's willing to do so. And that's how the story basically plays out, with some more complications and a big plot twist that happens in the climax of the story, and then another even bigger twist that happens in the last chapter of the book. So I would say that this is a pretty great Slappy story, to be honest with you. I think 95% of the story before the retcon is really good, and I had a lot of just fun and good stuff that I had involving this book as I was reading. So let me take a quick sip and go into some of the stuff. First of all, I think that this Slappy perspective is probably one of the best Slappy perspectives that we've gotten in all of the dummy stories that have come out. A lot of the Slappy stories oftentimes end up being the exact same shit. Rinse, repeat, recycled. Obviously, he comes to life. He starts doing some shit, trying to incriminate the kids. The kids are like, no, 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 you gotta believe me. I'm not the one doing that. And then you got talent shows and you got all this typical stuff. And then, of course, at the end, they find out Slappy is alive and they try to stop him. Usually how that goes. This has those tropes, but it does it in a different fashion. First of all, the beginning of the book with Jimmy O. James and Slappy is a great dynamic because the way Stein writes how Jimmy O. James is very nervous, how he's stressed out with Slappy and how he wants to get rid of him is really well written. You got this tension throughout the beginning first chapters of the story. You're really nervous about Jimmy O. James, what Slappy's gonna do, and then when Slappy bites down on the kid's ear and he lets out this high siren noise that starts rupturing people's eardrums and making them go crazy. And then seeing Jimmy O. James take his anger out on Slappy, slam him across the dressing room, and then threaten to kill him, to put him to sleep. That's all really good. It's really good stake and tension. And that leads to Slappy's perspective, where you see Slappy at his most vulnerable. The shit that Slappy goes through in this story is crazy. And you see how freaked out he gets when Jimmy O. James has Wally and has the spell that can put him to sleep and bring Wally to life. You see that, he starts going crazy. He starts breaking apart, Wally. He starts going up and trying to decapitate and rip off Jimmy O. James' head. And then when he gets bombarded by Georgia and Stella's appearance, he then gets really freaked out because the spell is draining his life force. He's losing his life force. He feels himself going to sleep, and that's when he becomes desperate. You actually get to see Slappy be super desperate in this book. And you see him beg for his life. You see the big man on campus, the mascot of Goosebumps, Slappy, basically the head honcho, always cocky, always doing jokes, always on top of his game. He's now at his lowest point. He's actually begging. He's huffing and puffing, begging Jimmy, please. Jimmy, please don't do it. Please don't kill me. Please, I beg you, Jimmy. Please, I'll do anything. Don't take me. You don't see Slappy do that ever. So this is a brand new, refreshing perspective that you get involving his character. Seeing Slappy actually be the good guy, actually try to figure out, the dynamics of the family, trying to help out Georgia, trying to clean up her acts, trying to keep Stella away from causing trouble. He's really being like a parental figure here. He's trying to be the good guy. He's trying to be the guardian angel, basically looking after Georgia and trying to do good deeds. And he keeps getting thwarted, and you feel kind of bad for him. You're like, bro, this man cannot catch a break. This man is getting thwarted. Every time he tries to do something good, it ends up getting retconned. So you start to feel for Slappy, and you see his frustration. But at the same time, you don't lose his character. Slappy doesn't just become a good guy. No, he lets you know throughout the story, I'm still the same old evil me, and it's hurting me to do these good deeds. But I'm going to take it over getting put in 6 feet under. I don't want to get thrown in the trash heap. I don't want to get put to sleep forever. I don't want to get flatlined. I'm just doing this so I can get my own gain out of it. And he reminds you that, as soon as these good deeds are done, I'm going to find Jimmy. I'm going to rip his head off. I'm going to punish him for all this nightmarish stuff that's happening to me. And obviously you get some good plot twists as to who may or may not be thwarting Slappy. You find out the culprit later on during a big climax fight scene, which was a really fun sequence involving a lunchroom. That was really cool to see and fun. And some of the stuff in here. This is a darker Slappy book. There's some crazy stuff that happens. Slappy is unhinged in this book. And for good reason he becomes unhinged. One night he goes up in the middle of the night and he reveals himself to Stella. Stella's in the middle of the night and sees Slappy walk into her room, alive and sentient. And then he claps a wooden hand across her mouth and says, listen, but he doesn't say this, but basically he implies, listen here, you little bitch. And I'm like, hey, yo, he's going in. He says, listen here, Stella. If you try to mess up any more of the good deeds and good stuff I got going on, I'm going to stick my hand so far down your throat that you'll be coughing up splinters. He says something along those lines. I'm like, yo, this man is on demon timing. He's on demon timing. He's locked in. He's like, yo, I'm going to take you out if you don't stop messing with me. And as the story continues and he has more bad things happen to him in his plans, at one point he starts having this crazy monologue. He starts going, no, you know what? I'm tired of being good. I was made to be evil. That sorcerer, he didn't do me any injustice. He did me a favor. He brought me to life. He made me who I am. He endowed me with his magic powers. You know what evil spelled backwards is? Live. Kandu brought me life. He brought me a new chance at who I am, to make a name for myself. And I'm not going to dispose of my bad nature. I'm going to kill Stella. I'm going to strangle her. I'm going to end her. And then when Georgia is mourning over her family, he apologizes. He's like, sorry, Georgia. I'm sorry that you have to mourn over the loss of a family member, somebody close to you, but I'm going to use that as my opportunity. I'm going to be opportunistic. I'm going to help you out while you're grieving over Stella's death, and that's going to be my good deed. That's how I get the job done. And I was like, Jesus fucking Christ. I have never seen Slappy be this vulnerable and be this sinister simultaneously. So that is a testament to the book. You get Slappy at his absolute lowest point, and that turns him into like a villain arc. He's already a villain. He becomes even more villainous. He becomes desperate. He's like, I'm going to kill people. I'm going to strangle her. And I'm going to use that as my opportunity to get my good deed done. I'm going to help Georgia while she's grieving over her death. And that line about evil spelled backwards being live, and how Kandu brought him life. That evil, dark magic is the one that gave him this new opportunity, that birthed him into this world. That is really mature, and that is super well done. I did not expect Stein to write that. I don't know if there's any ghostwriting involving the book, but Stein usually never writes anything that deep. But if he was involved in that, Stein, muy bien, muy bien. That's really good for Slappy's storyline. The only problem with the book is obviously the ending. The last chapter, as many of you may know, is very controversial. It retcons a lot of stuff. But to be fair, Slappy throughout the book does, emphasize the fact that he's evil, emphasize the fact that he's still bad. He doesn't get this character development moment where, he's at a point where, like he turns into the good guy. Like, no, like there's a baby. Yeah, like there was a choking baby scene, which is controversial. Slappy's not the one choking a baby, but the baby's choking, and, he helps out the baby and tries to, get the blanket, and he even coos the baby. He even sings like a little lullaby, like, oh, you'll be okay, little guy. You're okay. And then the baby falls back asleep. So Slappy has good moments where he turns into a good guy, but he reminds you he's doing it because of his own evil intention. And he gets to the breaking point. He's like, man, fuck this shit. I'm just going to start killing people. I'm going to start taking names. I'm going to start taking bodies. And that's how I'm going to get my opportunity to do a good deed over grieving. So he reminds you he's still a bad guy. So yeah, the ending, the last chapter of the book is mean-spirited. But at the same time, it's like, he's still a bad guy. And to be fair, it doesn't completely, put him to sleep. It just, the ending implies that something may happen all over again. So it is a bad ending. It's not the worst ending or worst conclusion I think the story could have gotten, or what people say. So overall, I'd give this book a 9.5 out of 10. I think this is one of my favorite Slappy books that I've ever read. I think it's fantastic. I think it's great for what it is. And I honestly suggest that a lot of you Slappy fans out there, if you've not read Slappy's Nightmare yet, please go check it out. I think that it's an overall great read. And that's all I got for today. So if you enjoyed this review, if you enjoy my content, feel free to support me by hitting that subscribe button, hitting that like button, and then hitting that bell notification so you get updates on all of my future content. I got Goosebumps content on my channel. I got adult horror, young adult horror, kids horror, all different types of stuff. So click on my channel, check out all the list of videos that I got, and stay tuned for more content to come. I'm going to be making a video that ranks all of the Night of the Living Dummy books, the original ones in Series 2000 and the OG 62. And then I'll probably rank the Slappy episodes because I can do that. It's the easy way. And yeah, stay tuned for that. And make sure you have a great day. And this video, of course, by the Horrorlander, was brought to you by Brought Studios, a work in development to becoming the biggest horror review channel out there. So yeah, thank you as always, and have a nice day. Stay goosebumping.